Welcome to PsychicBent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic. Welcome back, listeners, to PsychicBent. We sure hope you enjoyed our last episode about vortexes and the ley lines. It was kind of interesting doing the research on those. We definitely hope you enjoyed it. This week, what we've decided to do is to cover the chakras again, more like an overview, and just cover what they are, what they do, their functions, because we think that we needed to touch on those again just to refresh everybody's mind, because we talk about them all the time and never really go into detail whenever we are describing the chakras in other episodes. So I think we're going to have Carrie start this time and start us off with the first chakra she wants to start us off with. Carrie?
Well, I was going to just talk about what chakras are just as a refresher. Our episode on chakras was very lengthy, and I think it was hard to tie everybody together, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't we just do like a light refresher of the chakras and what they do, and then you can go back and listen to the chakra episodes if one of those chakras sounds like yours might be out of whack, or it just interests you and you want to go listen to it some more. I just think that, wasn't that a 3-part episode?
I think it was, if I remember correctly.
So you got 7 chakras in 3 different episodes. So it could be really easy to lose a chakra here or there, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to go back and kind of get in there. Kim, did you want to explain what a chakra is before I get in any more in depth, or do you want me to just go with it?
I would say just go ahead and go with it.
Okay. So there are 7 main chakras. There's more than 7 chakras, but these are the main chakras. These are the ones associated with your body. Chakras, as we had talked about before, is a word coming from Sanskrit that means wheel or disc. They are referring to the idea of spinning energy vortices that align throughout the body. And this is kind of interesting that we're going to follow up the vortex with chakras, because we did bring up chakras in the vortex episode, right, Kim?
Yeah, we did. Exactly. It all ties together.
Yeah, it's kind of fun how it all does tie together. It's a really funny side note before I dive into this. I went to a gem show yesterday, and anybody that knows me knows I love a good gem show. And it was funny watching people pick up the chakra charms. And they're like, oh, that's pretty. And I'm like, you have no idea. Okay, you might need it. You might want to buy that. I think you might need that in your life.
Yeah.
So the chakras, the 7 main chakras, they're associated with a color, an element, a set of emotions, and then the physical functions. Like I said, we're not going to deep dive into each individual chakra, but that kind of gives you a little bit of a refresher on what the chakras kind of do. We're going to get a little bit more into that. But you really have all these energy centers or chakras that do important things in our bodies. And it kind of goes from the crown down your spine to your root chakra. And they're very important, especially when we grow spiritually. And there are symbols that go with each chakra, as well as a name. I'm not going to get into the one names because we're just going to stick with what's easy to remember: crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and then your root chakra. And I just did it from the top down. But normally when you do talk about chakras, where do you start, Kim?
Well, usually you begin at the root of the issue. So you start at the root chakra.
Yes. So I went in the reverse just to bring it down to start at the root. Now, the root chakra is very important because that's the chakra for balance. So the chakra is located at the base of the spine in the perineum area, and it's associated with the color red. It represents our connection to the earth and our basic survival needs such as security, food, shelter. And in this foundation of our physical, emotional, and spiritual stability. So this is the foundation chakra. This is the one that if it's out of balance, it can mess up everything going all the way up.
Right.
So when it's balanced, you feel safe and grounded in the world. Do you want to add anything to the root chakra, Kim?
That's all I would say in relationship to the root chakra. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So the next one would be the sacral or sacral chakra. Just depends on where you're from. It's pronounced either way. And it is
Potato.
exactly. And it is associated with the emotional body, sensuality, and creativity. Its element, which they're all tied to elements as well, by the way. Its element is actually water. And as such, its energy is characterized by flow and flexibility. And the function of the sacral chakra is directed by the principle of pleasure. That is your pleasure center, I guess we could say. The most common location of the sacral chakra is about 3 inches below the belly button or the navel at the center of your lower belly. It's located at the level of the lower vertebrae in your back, just to give you a precise point of where it's at. Things that are associated with this sacral chakra is emotions and feelings, relationships, feeling the outer and inner worlds, creativity, fantasies. All that originates from the sacral chakra. So when that is not in balance, you could show signs of dependency, codependency with other people or substances, being ruled by your emotions, feeling numb or out of touch. So it really influences your feelings, how you're feeling, what your desire, and stuff like that. So when it's out of whack, those activities are out of whack or out of balance. And the color that is associated with the sacral chakra is the color orange. That's all I have on the sacral chakra.
It's funny how they're layered together, though, isn't it, Kim? If your root chakra's out of whack, you definitely see why that sacral chakra would be out of whack as well.
Oh, definitely. That's how the wheels turn.
Ah, the wheels as they turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so the third chakra, as we move up the body, is the solar plexus, and that is above the sacral chakra, located at the upper abdomen in the stomach area. This chakra is associated with a bright yellow color. It is the center of our personal power, self-esteem, and willpower. It represents self-confidence and the ability to make decisions. When balanced, you feel confident in your abilities and you have a strong sense of purpose. So this one, I think, is kind of, for me, I don't know about for you, Kimmy, and I would like your opinion on it, but for me, this one is easier for me to pinpoint when it's out of balance. You're starting to doubt your abilities. You start to doubt this. You start listening to ego. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and this is the one that's most commonly out of balance for everybody.
I would think so.
It stops there. They develop the root and the sacral, and then just once you hit that solar, I think a lot of people have that out of balance.
Yeah, and I know, and I'm jumping ahead to the throat chakra, but I think, in my view, and just for me, the solar plexus, if I'm not speaking my truth, then my solar plexus is definitely going to be out of balance as well as my throat. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
If I'm hiding who I am, if I'm covering stuff up, then my solar plexus chakra is not spinning the way it should be spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that covers that.
Okay. And you had the heart chakra, correct?
Right. The next one is the heart chakra. And the heart chakra is located, of course, in the chest. It's not technically your heart. It is to the right of your heart. Yeah, right. Had to go left or right here. Yeah, it's a little bit it's more the center of your chest. Your heart.
Where is my heart?
And of course, it's the fourth chakra that, as Carrie mentioned, and its color is green. With the heart chakra, it is related to love of oneself and others, relationships, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, acceptance, transformation, all different things associated with that, awareness, insights. And when your heart chakra is open, you may feel being deeply connected and the harmonious exchange of energy with all that is around you and appreciate beauty. But whenever it is blocked, then you will experience difficulties in your relating with others, such as excessive jealousy, codependency, or being closed down and withdrawn. So if you're feeling any of those things, that could technically be related to your heart chakra being closed and not allowing you to literally love and appreciate everything around you, including ourselves.
Yes, it's very important. And that's the chakra that kind of links the earthly chakras to the upper chakras. So because those are the more spiritual chakras.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's kind of the link. So if you're very closed off, especially if there's no self-love, because you brought that up, I mean, then that means all your chakras from your heart down need some work,
Right.
because you're obviously not rooted, and it's just kind of your heart. I think my opinion is when you're first starting with chakra work, or at least for me, the heart and the throat chakras were harder for me than the third eye.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Because you have to work through what you're going through with the ego and such in solar plexus chakra,
Yeah.
and then work through that heart chakra to get past all that doubt about yourself or whatever in your heart and loving yourself and everything. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think once you work through all those first 5 chakras and you finally got those babies spinning, I think that third eye's like, finally, let's do this, but that's just me. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But so number 5 is the throat chakra. And this chakra is located at the base of the neck in the throat, and its color is light blue. And this is obviously the center of communication and personal expression. It represents our ability to speak our truth and listen to others attentively. When this chakra is balanced, we are able to express ourselves clearly, sincerely, without fear of judgment. I think the throat chakra is a big speed bump for a lot of people. It's been for me in the past too.
I agree.
Yeah, I do a lot of solar plexus work for myself. That's my kryptonite, I think, is the solar plexus. Do you have a kryptonite, so to speak?
Um, 5 and below.
5 and below? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, this is a day-to-day thing. This is a daily practice, recognizing if your chakras are lined up or not. And Kim, you referenced this on another episode that, if you're not sitting up straight, your spine's not straight. So your chakras aren't in line.
Right.
So that's kind of could be an easy way, if you find yourself slouching a lot lately and you're not, it's like, well, okay, time to check in. From 5 down to 1 and see, okay, which one of you guys is messing up that we need to fix.
Yeah.
Especially it's like if you're a person who enjoys music and loves singing and you find yourself not singing to your favorite song.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's a sign of your throat chakra. It could be off, but not to the extreme off. So it kind of depends on how sensitive I think you are to your chakras on how it's going to affect you as well.
Right. Right. And whenever you are happy, confident with yourself, comfortable with yourself, you tend to stand up or sit down straighter, shoulders back, because that's where you're at. And if you're starting to feel self-conscious, uneasy, uncomfortable, doubting, and all those other things, you're slowly going to slouch, whether you're standing up or sitting down. So,
And you may not even be aware you're doing it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden your neck hurts, or your back hurts, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
But if you're having a bad day, like you woke up tired, you didn't get a chance to meditate or whatever your morning practice is, and you're running late, you have to get to work. Okay, already your chakras are slowing down because the root chakra is struggling because you're not grounded.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's when your day kind of starts to go downhill, and when you have a bad day, because now all the chakras going up to the throat chakra are starting to kind of slow down a little bit, maybe kind of get sluggish, or you may have one just chugging along and the others are going, yeah, you do the work. We're good, So if you find yourself halfway through the day and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a rough day, I just want it to be over. Okay, you've got something going on with your chakras. Now, that's not to say you could really be having a bad day because you may have a toxic coworker, or you deal with customers, and some customers are not easy to deal with. That's going to affect your throat chakra and all the other chakras too.
Right.
Because if you're dealing with a customer, you can't say what you want to say. So you're not necessarily speaking the truth. I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
after those type of situations, you need to be mindful and how to get back to getting that chakra where it needs to be before you do a crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all done the crash and burn with our chakras and maybe not identified that's what that was.
Right.
And again, when working with your chakras, this is, again, we tell you to have grace with yourself. Just be patient, have grace. And that kind of helps get the ball rolling, because when you give yourself grace, you have more compassion for yourself, which helps with chakra. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, I think that, while doing the chakra work, sometimes it's best not to get all caught up in all that chakra is, because if you've been doing the work, you don't need to start at the very beginning, or you might need to start at the very beginning,
Right.
because maybe when you worked on your chakras, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I'm going to speed through it, and I'm going to say I worked on my chakra. That happens too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of identifying those balances, and when they're off, it's really important. Like if you find yourself snapping at somebody for no reason, there's many reasons for that, right?
Yeah, true.
It could be many, many things. To me, in my own personal thing, I have not used my throat chakra correctly. And then I've got to the point where, okay, now my throat chakra is going to be open, and then I'll say things and clear. And that's not how you want to clear your throat chakra.
That's right.
So it's good to kind of check in with your chakras. And I've used my pendulum on that before. Just hold the pendulum up and let the pendulum know, just, spin in a circle. If it's going good, if it's not, just stop. And I hold it over each area of my chakras. It's hard to do it on the crown. You need a mirror. And that's where I usually, my sacral is not is not going like it should, because that's my problem child, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. So the chakra scene comes to work. It's not a one and done thing.
Right.
It would be if you lived in a garden somewhere beautiful and you didn't have to talk to people and you could control your environment 100%. But that's not life, So you got to check in and see where you're at with your chakras.
Right. Okay, the next one would be the third eye, and that's the sixth chakra, and it's located in the forehead between the eyebrows. It is the center of intuition and foresight. The function of the third eye chakra is driven by the principle of openness and imagination. Its color is indigo. It's very pretty. And when your third eye is balanced, you have vision, intuition, you can have perception of dimensions and movements of energies. You can perceive those. Your psychic abilities related to clairvoyance and clairaudience are pumping good, and you're getting those messages, and you have a connection to wisdom and insight and motivation and creativities, all tied to the third eye. When it's not imbalanced, you can feel stuck in the daily grind, stuck in your problems.
Well, in that one, you can see where if you feel like your intuition is off, where do you need to check? You check in with your third eye.
Right.
Check that chakra. And you can see why it's so important to start at the root chakra and move your way up.
Yep.
And they're not all going to be out of whack at the same time. I'm making it sound like that, but they can be if you've not been doing any work. They can all be out of whack, so it's really important to check in.
It's like you said earlier, once your sacral's out of whack, then it could throw everything else up above it out. That's what you said. Yes. So that would be they're all out of balance then.
Yeah. So the crown chakra is the final chakra, and it's located at the top of your head. This chakra is associated with the colors violet and white.
This chakra is also closely associated with the brain and the whole nervous system. With the crown chakra, it's associated with the consciousness, awareness of higher consciousness, wisdom of what's sacred, connection with the limitless realization, communion with higher states of consciousness, ecstasy, bliss, presence. It's also associated with transcendence of our limitations. It opens us all up to the spiritual realms above.
And that chakra, would you think that's the scariest to some people to try to work on?
I don't know if that's the scariest or not. I mean, personally,
The fear of the unknown.
I don't know that to me, this is just me talking. That is not
That's
the
fine.
scariest to me. The scariest is the heart chakra. So, facing me, you know,
Oh,
that,
well, I can
you know what I'm
see that
saying?
with you. Yeah, yeah.
I think it depends on the individual. I'm all for the beyond, the universe, of the realms. I'm all for getting there and believing in them and knowing there's a divine and everything. I'm there. It's getting that open up past
Mhm.
my personal block. I'm more afraid of the heart than I am of the crown. Let's put it that way. And what's
Okay,
above and beyond the crown.
okay.
So I think that really depends on the individual.
That's true. I know that when I started working on my third eye chakra, I would get this tingly, almost pressure in the middle of my head where the third eye would be.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that was like, okay, this is weird. Yeah. And then I found out that was normal. And then for me, when I worked on the crown chakra, I could feel energy going through the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, oh, okay. Because, when you're first starting out, you kind of sometimes are like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the crown chakra was a little more, for me, was because I would see, when I do my meditation to work on the chakras, I would see violet and I would see white, and the colors would just be going all over the place. Kind of like what you see the pictures of the aurora borealis, how it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
That's what I was seeing with my eyes closed when I was working on it. And it was beautiful, but kind of kind of like, oh, this is scary. But not scary like creepy scary. It's kind of like, okay, it's kind of exciting but scary because I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
You know?
But then if you're working on meditations to where you're calling in the energy to come in through your crown and go down to the ground, to earth
Mm.
and everything, that's also feeding the chakras. You're going down one at a time. So
Yep.
that's how I associate it. That's why that doesn't scare me, because I'm always visualizing the energy coming in and helping ground me or whatever
Yeah.
I may need. But I could see where some people would be very, very intimidated with the possibility.
Yeah. And it's not scary when it's happening. It's very peaceful. But that kind of got me prepared for Reiki. Because when I'm doing Reiki, that's where the power comes through the head. It comes through, the light comes through your head, through my head, and comes out to my hands.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of like, oh, okay, this ties together. It's pretty, so Reiki it didn't. It was kind of like, oh, I get that, I get it. Whereas my crown chakra, I'm like, going, okay, So it's just funny how individually you relate to something like that.
And tying it back to last episode, that could be following ley lines across your body going to your hand chakras, because there's chakras all over
Mm.
your body.
Oh,
So if they're
yeah,
coming from
yeah.
the head down to hands, I just made that connection right there. So
We're good. Yay. So, Kim, what do you think about chakras? I mean, we've researched chakras on more than one occasion. So what is the one thing that keeps popping out at you? Is it the heart chakra or is there something else? I mean,
I'm not sure what, I don't know that I understand the question.
well, when you research stuff, how, when you're doing stuff for psychic abilities and things like that, there always seems to be something that pops up repeatedly. One thing keeps popping up repeatedly in the research. You usually have that quite a bit. This is the one time it didn't happen.
Well, they were all popping everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't narrow it down to one specific thing other than them being out of balance and how to work on them. I
Yeah.
can't say one specific chakra stood out to me. They all did. They.
I know that when I first started researching chakras, the solar plexus was kind of a, oh, I get it now because of all my allergy issues and my, I can't eat certain foods, and it all made sense to me
Mm-hmm.
when I got to the solar plexus because that's where all that is tied, is right there at your stomach.
Right.
So then, I had to really try to work on that one. Because, I always try to maintain groundedness because being psychic, that goes hand in hand, and that's a daily thing. And when you're being grounded, you're working that root chakra.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, during the research a long time ago, it was basically, oh, that makes sense. It's not working right. It's not spinning, and then I keep getting confirmation from my pendulum that some days it's going better than others. And that usually means that I've slipped off the solar plexus work.
Right.
Because, life inches in, and it's hard. I mean, I would love to say I can maintain a Gandhi state, but there's no way I can do that, because life happens.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, was kind of mine was the solar plexus. So I didn't know if you had one that did that, but I thought maybe it might be the heart chakra, but
Well, I
I
mean,
wasn't sure.
like I said, mine's all of them stood out. So think about it. Whenever
All
I
of them,
first
yeah.
started, it was all of them were out of balance.
All of them waving at you, going, "Hello, Kim.
Hello. Hello.
Step into my parlor."
Yeah. I mean, this heart chakra
You know,
is one that I do focus a lot on. But I mean, when
yeah,
you're just talking first starting out, it was I connected or made a connection or felt drawn to all of them because obviously
yeah,
they all needed work.
yes. And it was new, and sometimes these are things you're like, "Oh, I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea I needed to do this." One thing, we're not going to go into all the different poses for yoga or, different meditations, but the practices you can do are meditation, yoga, Reiki, sound therapy. Those are all ways to align your energy and promote a healthy flow between them. But, one of the things about meditation is it doesn't cost you anything.
Oh, that's true.
And yoga, if you can find a good YouTube video for working with your chakra yoga, that's great. But when you get to Reiki and sound therapy, now you have to pay someone.
Mm-hmm.
And my philosophy on this is, and this is just Carrie, so it doesn't mean anything, is to try the meditation work first, because that's just costing you time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you feel like you're not getting anywhere with your chakra work through meditation, then I would go to yoga for me
Mm-hmm.
and try yoga, which again is costing me time. And usually there's a little meditation that goes with yoga. Now, I've had Reiki on more than one occasion because sometimes, especially if you've gone through something traumatic in life, that can shut a chakra down.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and so there are times when you need Reiki, and it's worth every penny you spend to have a Reiki practitioner work out your all your blockages, and they look for other we look for other things as we're doing the Reiki and stuff. And at that point it's very much worth the Reiki. And then sound therapy, which is very soothing. At the gym show they had a lot of the crystal bells, the singing bells, the Tibetan bells, and someone was doing the sound therapy. I mean, I bought a little bell, because I loved how it sounded. But I have a little gong, a tiny little thing that when I'm meditating, I like to hit that.
Mm-hmm.
That helps with me aligning my chakras and getting me focused, and very soothing and stuff. And so sound therapy might be the way to go. And you might be the type of person that's like, I'm going for Reiki. You know what? If you feel like that, you might need it.
Right.
But that's just kind of how I look at the practices, is I want to dip my toe in the water. So, if I'm starting to work on something spiritually, meditation's my go-to, because I get communicated with a lot,
Mm-hmm.
During meditation. And yoga is great. I have been slacking up the yoga lately, so I need to get back on that. And trust me, I'm not limber, so I'm not one of these doing so. I'm very limited in my yoga because I'm not that limber because I'm old. But there's a lot of yoga that has helped with the stomach area. It's a certain type of yoga, but it helps with your solar plexus to just release energy that's there.
Mm-hmm.
which is using more stretching and pressing that area to get rid of, some of the hurt you're carrying. Because women carry a lot of their stress in their belly area.
Yeah, definitely.
And so yoga is great for trying to push that out and release the emotion to help get that spinning. So that's what yoga actually does. And of course, Reiki's that energy going through and trying to align everything. But it's kind of, you need to pick what, and we say this all the time, so I apologize, but what resonates with you. But for me, it's kind of like, let's start with that meditation. Because I think once you start meditation that's geared towards your 7 chakras, then when you move into the yoga, you're already got some of the work going. That's going to continue that work.
Right.
But if you're really having some stomach issues, you may want to go straight into yoga and try to work that out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you don't have to do all of it. You just do what resonates with you. If you want to do it all just so you can experience it all, go for it. I've never really had sound therapy done to me. I just know how I feel when I'm hearing it, when they're playing, making it sing, the bowls sing. I'm like, oh, it does make you hum. It kind of gets you going there.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, but Reiki has been very powerful for me when I receive it.
Right.
So what do you have on that?
There are some YouTube videos out there as well, or even on other websites or apps that deal with meditation and such, that have just the Tibetan bowls ringing and stuff for different things. And you could find ones related to the chakras and helping you unblock them to play those during your meditations. And those are very comforting and helpful too.
Oh, they're very helpful, especially when you're first starting out. You're trying to quiet your mind, but then, ego's saying, you don't know what you're doing. You don't do it that way. What are you doing? Why won't my mind quiet? I'm supposed to be quiet. These mental conversations I have had.
Yeah.
These are actual conversations I've had when I first started with meditating.
True.
And the guided meditation, I always recommend listening through it one whole time before you attempt to meditate to it, just so you know what to expect. Because, you're like, if I have to breathe in and breathe out and breathe, I want to know what the rhythm is, because that's just how I am. Because then if I don't listen to it the first time and kind of pay attention and say, okay, this is how it's going to go, then I'm going to stop meditating and start listening.
Right.
Oh, I didn't do that right.
Yeah.
I didn't do that right. I was supposed to hold my breath longer. It's like, so it messes with me.
Yeah.
So I have to sit down and listen to it a time or two before I dive into actual meditating with it.
Right. Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah. And I know that you can also use smell therapy, the essential oils or incense and stuff like that you can have burning while you're trying to do your meditation that helps. There are some scents that I smell that just totally relax me and put me in such a calm frame of mind and a calm state that I could see where that would help with the meditation as well and focusing on the chakras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and having aromatherapy while you're meditating is always a good idea. If when it relaxes you like that, that's going to help you kind of keep ego out. And before you start your meditation, you get everything set up. If you're going to do aromatherapy, have it ready to go. If you're going to meditate, make sure everybody knows to leave you alone, not to disturb you. Turn your phone off or turn your ringer off if you're using your phone to listen to it. Just to get prepared and then set the intention of what you're working on.
Right.
But I mean, to me, it's consistency.
Right.
Like we said earlier, it's not a one and done thing. It's something you have to work at.
Yep.
And if you're a health food person and that's very important to you, you'll want to research mindful eating to see how that helps with your chakras.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because eating certain foods, just like have a certain sense, can trigger different things. It just kind of depends on what your practices are. Like for me, I'm all about the gemstones.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kim's more about the essential oils.
Yeah.
And neither one is right or wrong. It's just that's what you're drawn to and helps you. I do incense, but I have to be careful with some of the scents because of my solar plexus allergies, you know, so.
Which surprises me that I can do the essential oils to a point because scents get me as well. So,
Well, but, the good quality essential oils are pure.
makes sense.
Yeah. And aromatherapy and sound therapy go great together. Just like aromatherapy and meditation go great together. You could do aromatherapy with yoga. You can do it with Reiki. You can do it with the sound therapy. So a lot of these you can just kind of use together. They just complement each other.
Yep.
You got anything else there?
So, the only other thing I think I might have to say or would like to say is that if you're just feeling out of sorts or off kilter, out of balance, just take some time to do some internal investigation to decide or find out which chakra might be out of balance or which might need attention for you. It may not even be anything that happened that day, because if you wake up and you just feel out of sorts, out of all the stuff that happens in my dreams, I'm thinking some of it may come from those dreams or interactions and throw me out of balance when I wake up. Does that make sense? Because I do think things can affect your chakras.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Even if you're dreaming or in your dream state and you're doing things in your dream state.
Yeah, if you're doing any astral traveling in your dream state, I could definitely see where that would or could help, whatever you're working at, whatever you're doing, whatever you're called to do during astral travel, I can see that could do it. Or if you are prone to having bad dreams.
Right.
I can see where that could affect your chakras.
Or you had a visitation with someone that really threw you off in your dream. That could affect you as well. Someone with ill intentions.
Yeah. Or if you experience something prior to going to sleep and your subconscious carried it into your dreams.
Right.
That's going to also affect your chakra because your body's trying to work through that. You're more open to work through that when you're sleeping, obviously. Like if someone upsets you before going to bed.
Yeah.
You're not going to sleep well, for one. And I could see where your root chakra would be out of balance. And if it was a loved one that caught you unaware or hurt you or something, that's going to affect your throat and heart chakra.
Yeah.
If that happened prior to bed, I can see waking up not feeling your best.
True, but if you have in your sleep, if you are working on a past life situation or something like that, encounter, do you feel that would also throw off your chakras?
Uh, no, for me, no. Only because you should ask for protection prior to starting a past life regressive dream. Because when you go to sleep, that's your intention is to work through your past life. So I usually, before I go to sleep, ask for protection anyway. But if you're doing it on purpose, past life regression, just like with any other work we talk about, you should always have a bubble of protection or ask your guides and spirit to protect you. And that should keep your chakra okay. That should protect your chakra because it's protecting you while you're working through a past life.
Okay.
My past lives didn't scare me, even though if it had happened and like if it was like a regular dream, it probably would have been. But I knew what was going on, and I wasn't frightened. Like when when I was working through the one where the priest grabbed my wrist as they were going to put me on a pyre and burn me. I wasn't afraid because I knew this was the past. I just knew this because that's what the intent was, work through past life. So I knew that's what was going on. So I don't feel that hurt my chakras or slowed my chakras down in any way because, that my intention was to work through what happened in that life, that particular life. So I just felt like the spirit was protecting me in those kind of instances. I've only done 2 past life regressions. I'm sure there's more lives out there.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like an old soul.
Right.
I feel old, but I don't feel like an old soul, So I'm pretty confident that I have probably had a few more lives, but not, I believe there's more than 2.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there's 3 because I'm in this life, but you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there's probably a few more I need to work through.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just asking because there's been times whenever I've had some really weird dreams and I woke up in the mood that I was in that dream.
Yeah. Well, and that's different than a past life regression.
Right.
You could have had an unpleasant visitation, like you said. It's one of those where you have a lot of active dreams.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you really should have protective stones under your pillow, and you should really be mindful of asking for protection. You probably do this already. So if you do that, forgive me. But, but, because you have some that get intense.
Yeah.
And so I can see where, and you have more intense dreams than I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see where you're more concerned with that visitation, where I do astral travel, and then I do a few times past life. So I could see where for you that would definitely affect your chakras more than what's going on with me when I sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. Well, listeners, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of PsychicBent. And if any of these chakras kind of resonated with you, or all of them, go back and re-listen to our episodes on chakras, because we go a little more in depth and talk about a little more of what each chakra does and doesn't do when it's not spinning properly, and different techniques for helping those chakras. So I would definitely recommend going back and listening to those episodes. If you would like to learn a little bit more, or if one of these chakras are resonating with you, or if you think you're having an issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, listeners, we're going to have to quickly wrap this up because Kim has a big storm going on at her house and her power is about ready to go off, I think. She says it keeps flickering. So we're going to wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can reach out to us on Facebook at PsychicBent Podcast and by email at psychicbent1@gmail.com.
And we'll meet you on next Monday. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We can be reached on Facebook at PsychicBent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.